Hi YouTube, and this is JTrain997, back with another figure review. This time the DC Universe Classics Wave 1, Figure 5, Red Tornado. Now, this guy, obviously, being Wave 1, was one of the first to come out. Now, I didn't pick DC Universe Classics up at first because I didn't know if they'd be good or not. And from the feedback I heard, they weren't. Now, this is the final one I'm missing from Wave 1. So, let's get on to a little brief history of the character bio. Red Tornado's history is a little confusing. Basically, there was one being who confronted Adam Strange on the planet Rann and was beaten. After this, he went into this kind of contemplation about what's better, good or evil. He decided on good and spent a lot of time observing the Justice Society. He then decided to create a complete likeness of Earth and become its hero, the Tornado Champion. Now, he didn't realize in doing this that he created the Tornado Tyrant, which was his exact opposite. The Tornado Tyrant fought him and beat him, and Tornado Champion came to Earth and with the help of the Justice Society, beat Tornado Tyrant. Tornado Champion was very depressed about this defeat, and therefore kind of went about seeking a new identity, and found this robot that Dr. T.O. Morrow, was creating, and bonded with it. It was a plot to destroy the Justice League, but long story short, Red Tornado ended up joining the Justice League and has been a key member ever since. Now, when he actually bonded to the android, he lost all past memories, so he really became a new being. Okay, so, a little long, but overall, still good. Okay, now he comes with his little tornado attachment, which is a light orange, of course. Now, there is they say there's a variant of this, but the only thing that's different is how my boots are kind of puffed out. That's considered the classic look. The non-variant, quote-unquote, would be the boot cuffs just being normal, thus being a, quote, a more modern look. He's obviously part of the Bildrex Mason line with Orion, Batman, Penguin, Etrigan, and himself. His biography actually says that it was Tornado Tyrant that fused with him, with the android, but I don't think it was. I mean, I may be wrong, but First appearance, Mystery in Space 61 as Tornado Tyrant, and Justice League of America 17 as Tornado Champion, Justice League of America 64 as Red Tornado. Real name, John Smith, blah blah blah. Special abilities, able to generate powerful cyclones, fly at great speeds, and battle-resistant android body. I don't know how they get off calling him battle-resistant. He's been destroyed more times than I can count in comics. The most recent incarnation of him in Justice League actually began with a story about him being destroyed. And he went into the Justice League computer and stayed there for quite some time. But, overall, a pretty interesting character. I really dismissed him the first time I saw him. But the more I read about him, the more I actually learned to like him. Now, he has appeared in, he was in Justice League Unlimited several times, but he never really had a major role. He's been in the, Batman Brave and the Bold series. And he, by the way, he does come with the final piece of Rex Mason, the left leg, which is probably the most unimpressive piece, just a clear leg, which you'll see when I pull him out of the pack. But without further ado, let's pull Red Tornado out of the pack. Okay, and here he is out of the box. Now, a lot of people have complained about the quality control issues with all of Wave 1. The only one that I've had issues with so far has been Orion with his obvious paint defects. Now, I've heard a lot about the joints being bad and the paint being bad. There is some noticeably darker paint on the middle of the T, which I doubt you'll be able to pick up very well on the camera. But from a distance on the shelf, you won't be able to tell. So, yes, I can tell that they really didn't do the best they could, but at the same time, it's not near as bad as these horror stories I've been hearing. Okay, so onto the figure. I think the detail on him is pretty nice. Of course, the cape is a hard plastic. It keeps that shape it's in. Okay, this little tornado attachment does pop off. It can fit onto either fist. So, I really don't see why they couldn't have given us two, seeing as, Red Tornado can make tornadoes with either hand. not just hands. But, so giving me one was kind of disappointing. So, articulation. He has the same great articulation that all DC Universe Classics have. The head is kind of hindered by the giant cape that comes up and covers his head. So, you still got the same range of movement. It's just a little more difficult. The cape, of course, hinders the arms to a point. Of course, shoulders rotate, biceps rotate, elbow joint, wrist joint. Same for both arms. Torso joint, hindered by the cape. Leg joint's a little stiff. Maybe quality control issues, I don't know. Quadricep joint, knee joint, ankle joint. Same for both legs. So overall, he's not near as bad as people have made him out to be. Now, Red Tornado, of course, being from the first wave, isn't all that hard to get online. You can usually get him for around $15 with shipping. Now, do I recommend him? That's a little iffy. Like I've said, I have heard some bad things about the quality control in this series. Now, while I personally have only had an issue with one figure, there is the possibility you could get a bad one. So I always risk factor when buying a figure into the overall score of it. So, good and bad. He's a nice sculpt. The cape hinders his movement, but it looks kind of cool. He's a very interesting character, but he's kind of hard to memorize his backstory. Okay, bad. He does have some noticeable paint defects. There are a risk factor. They could have given us more than one of these things. I might actually see if I can find a bit one on eBay to try and have two on his hands. But actually, now looking at him, it looks like there's some red showing through on the arrow in his head too, which you won't be able to tell. So overall, I'm gonna go 7, average, because he does have a lot of nice qualities about him, but risk factor and everything said and done, he just warrants being an average figure. So I wouldn't advise getting him offline unless you're a die-hard Red Tornado fan, or you're just really big into having all the DC Universe Classics. Here is the left leg of Rex Mason, final piece I'm missing. You can see at the top it's a very solid silver paint, and as you go down it actually becomes clear. He's the Element Man, so I'm guessing this is either air or gas or something, I don't know. All the other pieces had some sort of attachment, with the exception of the torso, of course. So, kind of disappointed they didn't give us a little something extra there. But overall, this is JTrain 997. I'm going to give Red Tornado a 7, and I'll see you soon, YouTube.